And one day I just was not feeling good at all. And I asked a friend for help, and he said, will you go up to the University Health Clinic? So I did. And they took me to the city, Fredericton, New Brunswick psych ward in the hospital. And that was my introduction into the mental health system. But one thing I did before that all happened in the middle of university was out of nowhere, just very spontaneously, I decided to bicycle across Canada. It was made easy. A lot of people are daunted by the trip. I was daunted too.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious, that's greatness, be audacious, motivation, be audacious, innovation, be audacious, inspiration, be bold, motivation, be audacious.
Greetings and salutations. What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. I'm your host, Audley Stephenson, and as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. And if you're returning as a listener back again, thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your day with me here. I never take it for granted or take it lightly at all. The goal of this podcast is simple, but yet it's very powerful. It's to help you live your best audacious life ever. Not by pretending life is easy, but by showing that courage, resilience, and hope are still possible, even when life feels impossibly heavy. Today's conversation made me think of life as a long distance ride, not a sprint, not a smooth, perfect paved road, but a ride where some days you're pushing uphill with no clear finish in sight. Other days you're focused on making it to the next mile marker. You're not thinking about the destination. You're thinking about staying upright, staying present, staying in motion. That's so key. And sometimes the most audacious thing you can do is to simply keep pedaling. In this conversation, we explore resilience in recovery, how small, consistent actions can carry you through even decades of struggle, advocacy for mental health, especially the urgent need for accessible care in developing countries. We'll talk hope beyond hope, what it means to keep going when you don't know where the hope will come from, the power of community, how friends, strangers, and online communities can help carry the load when you can't. Each of these themes shows up like checkpoints along our ride. You don't hit them all at once. You reach them one stop at a time. Today's guest is Matthew Dickson. Matthew is a Canadian mental health advocate, a speaker, and founder of MindAid.ca. It's a platform dedicated to promoting mental health awareness, recovery, and global access to mental health resources. He lives with the lived experience of schizophrenia and spent nearly 3 decades navigating recovery. In 2021, his symptoms stopped, and instead of quietly moving on, Matthew chose to turn his journey outward, using his story to bring hope, education, and tangible resources to others. He is also the first person with schizophrenia to bicycle across Canada, completing the journey twice, once in his youth and once again after recovery. Matthew's made it his mission to make mental health care more visible, more human, more accessible, especially in developing countries where resources are scarce and stigma. Matthew's story is an embodiment of audacious living, not because it's flashy, not because it's perfect, but because it shows what perseverance actually looks like when life strips everything else away. His journey reminds us that audacity often shows up quietly in the choice to keep going one more minute, one more mile, one more day. So let's get into it. Let's jump into our conversation with Matthew Dickson. Enjoy. Hey, Matthew, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to be here, man. Thanks.
Thanks so much for having me on. This is wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's great to be able to engage in dialogue. That again, if we potentially can help individuals sort of get to a better place, if you will, that's really what charges me and gets me excited. We talk about audacious living often and always here, and it's really understanding. Like if you think of that sort of the analogy of a journey, right? We're on our path, and so we're on this journey moving forward, and the things that come up will be our own, call them obstacles, pitfalls, trials, whatever. And it's incumbent on us to find a way to work through those to kind of keep going because life continues, right? And so, we
Yeah.
need to keep going as well. And so, um, you have your own unique journey. Certainly involves riding across Canada. I swear it's coming out of a movie. I'd say the way your story unfolds, and obviously your battle with schizophrenia and sort of how that became a factor in your life. And so maybe as a starting point, I'll get you to introduce yourself to our audience and talk about the work that you've done and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So I'm from New Brunswick, Canada. I grew up in a small town there. I'm 53 now. I've spent most of my life in New Brunswick, and I had an average childhood. Nothing extraordinary happened. Nothing too bad happened. It was pretty decent. But when I went off to university, I felt some differences in me, and I didn't. This would have been the late 80s, early 90s, and I
Mhm.
didn't know much about mental illness. I knew a little bit about mental health back then, but I didn't know about depression or bipolar or OCD or anxiety or schizophrenia. So much we didn't talk about back then.
Right.
So I felt some symptoms creep up, but I could still do stuff. Like I was taking engineering, I was getting mostly A's, I was working summer jobs, paying for all my education. I didn't have to get a student loan. I was on the university rowing team. I did a triathlon, and yeah, it was. But at the end of university, that's when my disease of schizophrenia hit. And one day, I just was not feeling good at all, and I asked a friend for help, and he said, "Will you go up to the university health clinic?" So I did, and they took me to the city, Fredericton, New Brunswick psych ward in the hospital, and that was my introduction into the mental health system. But one thing I did before that all happened in the middle of university was out of nowhere, just very spontaneously, I decided to bicycle across Canada. It was made easy. A lot of people are daunted by the trip. I was daunted too, but there's a group called Tour de Canada, and
Okay.
they go across Canada every year. Actually, the last 2 years they haven't gone. They're looking for an organizer to organize that trip. It's the world's
Mhm.
longest annual organized bike ride.
Okay.
Anyway, at the age of 19, I signed up for it, and the next summer I did it at the age of 20, and I just had the time of my life. Love traveling. I'd never been across Canada before by any means, and just loved it. So when that disease hit of schizophrenia, the pain was incredible. I had no idea life could be that bad. I always knew life could be bad. I knew life, you could lose your legs, you could become blind, you could get cancer, you could be in a Holocaust, but
Sure.
I
There's
had
all
no
kinds of.
experience of that kind of pain.
Right.
And it was terrifying to just not know how much longer you can hold on for, just taking like a few minutes at a time.
Yep.
So one of the things I did think about though was that, like here I am at 22. I've got this disease. They say, well, we don't know what's going to happen to you, Matthew. We can't say you fall into this class of schizophrenia or this class. We don't know if you're going to be better in 2 years, 20 years. We don't know if you'll ever fully recover. They sort of say, here's some medication, get some counseling, try to take care of yourself, try to find a job. I'm like, you want me to find a job feeling like this? Okay. Anyway, I did. I got a job doing data entry. I had my engineering degree, but I was in no the cognitive effects of schizophrenia. A lot of my intelligence was kind of gone, and just stress. I couldn't handle that kind of a stressful job. So I did data entry for 20 years, but I stayed on medication. I'm still on a medication today, the same medication they put me on back in 1994.
Mm.
And I noticed an improvement in my mental health every single week. And then one day in 2021, my symptoms just stopped. And it literally felt like I was blindsided, hit from behind, pummeled for 27 years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, one day it stops. And since then, I've been in a state of sort of processing shock. I get to think about things
Okay.
in a different way. Like I get to reflect on things as having happened in the past,
Right,
instead
right.
of for almost 30 years constantly reliving the same day over and over and over and over and over. Very, very Groundhog Day. I'm sure that's a
Yeah, yeah.
pretty.
That was the thought that came to mind. My goodness. And so I've never actually heard of it. Suddenly, it's just stopping. Is that something? Did you look into that? What was behind that? Or
Well, I so when I first got diagnosed with it and they told me, what to do, there wasn't a lot of literature on it back then. Since then, there's more literature, there's tons more research into the brain, but there's still a lot of mystery around the disease. But I didn't know that you could fully recover. I knew almost nothing about the disease for many, many years because I won't say nothing about the disease. I just didn't know like what might happen to me. I didn't know anybody who had come through this disease, gotten better, and living and being pain free again. So it's yeah, it was. But recently, so in the last, well, for a number of years, I've been reaching out to other people with schizophrenia advocates, and someone just in the last few weeks told me that, and I've got a website. There's a link there to it's mental health tips. There's a link there to schizophrenia resources, and on there I've put it's a World Health Organization article in the schizophrenia section that says a third of people globally recover from schizophrenia.
Mhm. Okay.
So yeah, and that's the first time I've ever heard that stat. That's just in the last few weeks I've learned that
Oh
stat.
wow, wow, wow.
There was also an article, and I can't find it online anymore. The head of the Schizophrenia Society of Canada sent it to me a number of years ago. It was called The Seven Myths of Schizophrenia.
Okay.
And there are some articles with that title now, I think, but it's not the same article. It said that it's a myth that people think you can't recover from schizophrenia. And you can. It is possible. It's not guaranteed. Some
No.
people don't recover, some partially recover, but some do fully recover. Now, recovery is, you ask 100 people what recovery means to them, you're going to get different answers. For me, I use the words I've successfully recovered. I'm still on a medication. I'm
Sure.
not cured. You're going to have a hard time getting me off my medication. But, I pop a pill, try to live a healthy lifestyle, and that's it. Like if there was isn't the ultimate solution to any disease just popping a pill?
Right, 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 right.
Oh
Give
yeah.
me, that is a remarkable story, but give me an idea what day to day was like before the change, and what was living with schizophrenia. What was that like for you?
It was terrifying. It's you don't know how you're going to feel from one moment to the next. It's sheer terror. I remember, after 1, 2, 3 years of recovery, I was in a group home for a few years. I was
Okay.
in the psych ward for about a year, in and out for a year, and then in a group home for 3 years. Since then, I've been living on my own independently. But like, for example, after let's say 2 years of recovery, I'd be trying to think of some activity to do during the day, something to keep me busy. The
Hmm.
days were incredibly long. I had no idea time could drag that quickly, and I'd be watching a TV show. It's like TV was a godsend for me. Um, I was able to plan my whole day out, plan my whole week out of what I was going to watch, activities for me to do. And the TV is never late. A TV show is maybe at the most 4 seconds late, 4 seconds.
Right.
You ask someone, can you come by and, go for a walk or something? They could be easily 10, 20 minutes late, which was like hours for me waiting. Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to wait? Are they going to show up?
Right.
Anyway, so I'd watch a TV show, for example, for an hour, and I just sit there looking at my watch every few minutes. My goal was to watch the TV show and make it through to the end of the TV show, and just a few minutes at a time. I'd be sitting there thinking, just a few more minutes,
Right.
just 3 more minutes, 3 more minutes, 3 more minutes. I'll try to hold on. Try to hold on. It's so Navy SEALs are taught in their training that you are capable of 20 times more than you think you are. They are
Ah,
taken to the brink of physical and mental exhaustion. They say, I'm done. I quit. I can't move another inch. I can't move another muscle. I'm done. I can't do this. And their trainer comes up to them and says, you think you're done? Not only do you have 5% more or 10% more, you've got 20 times more than you think you do. And they
mm,
get up and they show themselves that they can just keep going for way longer. And I'm no Navy SEAL. I've read books on Navy SEALs,
sure.
but
Sure.
I feel like in some way I was tested in somewhere on that spectrum to just keep going when I had no idea how I was going to go, how I was going to make it through. And I call it hope beyond hope. When
Okay.
you've when you've when you when you just don't know how you're going to go, there's
Yes.
things that will just keep you going. It's amazing if you just hang in there and just, even if it's just sitting there motionless for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, something happens. There's always something that happens in your day, and somehow you get through. I don't know how it works.
I
It's the
like that.
most
Hope beyond hope.
mysterious,
Yeah.
magical thing in life. And it doesn't feel magical when it's happening. It's
Right.
scary. So
Right.
scary. You're just like, I don't know what to do. You're at your wit's end. I'm out of rope. What do I do?
Now that what's next? That's funny. And when when you get to the other side of it and you can look back, that's when you recognize the magic because you're like, yo, how did I do that? Like, how in the world? And I would imagine, bike riding across Canada might be one thing as an example. Like, on a much smaller scale, I remember I'm in Ontario and I biked to Niagara Falls, and that's 200 kilometers away, right?
Wow.
And
Awesome.
I had set it up. I had set it up where I was going to bike one way, right? And then a friend of mine would meet me there, and we drive back, right? Well, I got down there eventually. I took my time and did my thing, and I eventually got down there. And the whole drive back, I'm going, yo, how did I do this? How the heck? What? Are you kidding me? And even now to this day, if I'm driving down, I'm going, I biked all this way? Wow, right? And so that kind of resonates with me a bit in your example.
Oh yeah. Like I did a training ride for 100 kilometers the first time I'd ever done it. And I'm like, I can't believe I've just biked 100 kilometers.
Right.
What?
That's right. That's
What?
right. That's right. Right. And I think that really speaks to just you hear that expression that every big journey starts with that first step, right? You take that first step and the next one, and you create this thing called momentum and you just kind of keep going, right? One in front of the other, one in front of the other. And it becomes subconscious. Like, when you're biking, you're not thinking about every single revolution that you bike. You're just going. You're just
Yeah.
going, right? And
Yeah.
and it's I think that is a really fascinating mindset to adopt. And I can certainly see, some correlations from your biking experience that help you with your mental health journey of that keep going sort of mentality.
Yeah. So back at the beginning, you mentioned that sort of like movie to my life sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, I I've been wanting to do so. When my disease hit, like my dreams are shattered. I didn't. My single goal was to get through the day, to get through my health back. That's all I wanted. And I thought, maybe, I don't know, I might speak at a high school somewhere about schizophrenia, mental illness. I had no dreams.
Sure.
I just wanted to get my health back. And I won't say I didn't have any dreams. I still had interest. I did things, I've got my own interest, my own personality, my own talents and skills and everything. I did that stuff. But I wanted, it was such a big high to go from that bike trip to like a couple years later, just, almost dead,
Mm.
not knowing what's, what my future held. So I really held on to being able to, do something like that again, whatever that was.
Right.
And after so many years of recovery, I thought, maybe I could do that bike trip again. I'd always wanted to. I thought about it all the time because it was, I'd done it. I got the unknowns out of it. And in 2023, I said, Matthew, go do it. So I did. This time I
I
did
love
it
it.
by myself. It was 2023, the summer of 2023, and I was in a unique position where I'd recovered from schizophrenia, but I'd already done that bike trip. I'd got the unknowns out of it. If I hadn't done it before, I don't know after going through schizophrenia if I'd try to tackle that. But I'm like, well, I've already done it. I know it's not as hard
Right.
as
It's
you think,
doable. Right.
Yeah. So I had the time of my life doing that again at the age of 51.
I love it.
And with cell phone and internet along the way, it makes traveling so much easier.
Sure.
And anyway, I made a YouTube videos each day. I posted on Facebook, and there's a little 30-minute film that a friend of mine made about the ride on my website. And I'm now the first person with schizophrenia who's biked across Canada.
I love it. I
It's
love it. And I certainly love the fact that you revisited something that you did as in your youthful days, and you did it again, right? Like I love that.
it was such, I have severe wanderlust. I love traveling. I'm conscious of, wasting gas and all that, but gosh, I love traveling. And to be able to do that again, those two trips were real bright, shining spots in my life where I'm just out, free, having fun, doing what I want to do.
Nice.
Instead of being a little marionette to
Yep.
mental illness and just to life in general. I think 70% of the American workforce is disengaged at work. TED Talk says only 13% of people love their job. So we all get that feeling of like, I just want to go.
Yeah.
And it's such a gift. Like I didn't have enough money to do that trip totally.
Yes.
The first sign I got an income tax refund of $2,000. And I thought, Matthew, maybe this is a sign you should do this trip. You can now start it. And I thought, if I started and people actually saw me out there biking from one day to the next in British Columbia, I started out west. If they actually saw me, they might say like, oh, like Matthew's actually out there. He's not just talking about it for the umpteenth time, he's actually out there, like maybe. And I just said, I'll start a GoFundMe and see if people want to help get me across. And I was prepared at any time if I ran into money to just hitchhike home. I had a friend who said, she could drive me back home to New Brunswick. But almost like magic, money kept coming in every day. Beautiful. And allowed me to get across the country. And it's 2 years later. I'm still getting emotional thinking about it, about my hometown, my home county, other people who I know online, who donated, helped get me across. I couldn't have done it without them. I didn't have the funds, and it just means so much to me. And if I can offer any inkling of hope, you don't have to bike across Canada to be happy. No. If you've got a mental illness, schizophrenia, you can look at me and say, well, I can't be as big as him. No. No, you can have a wonderful life doing what you want to do. But, it's just, this is what I wanted to do. And to see me in a zone, my genius zone, doing something where I thrive, maybe that can rub off, on someone else with schizophrenia, thinking maybe I can do, that person could say, maybe I can do what I want to do someday, whether that's starting a B&B or whatever,
Right.
It's
right.
If I can offer any bit of hope to someone to just keep going for another few minutes, another few days, another few years, it's
Matthew, I would absolutely love to kind of get your take on the contrast between the first ride and the second ride in terms of the difference, and even the fact that you've done something once, when you do it the second time is very, very different. So from a mind state perspective, even from a preparation and getting ready, like how do those two trips contrast one another?
Well, when I did it the first time, I wasn't a biker the first time. I really haven't done much biking in my life other than those two trips. I've dabbled in biking, here and there, but so the first trip I never done, can I actually bike 100 kilometers and then the next day 100 kilometers and then the next day 100 kilometers? Can I actually do this? I didn't know that, but so there were a lot of unknowns. So I know that there's places along the way to get food and shelter and campgrounds. You're not going off with your backpack across thousands of miles of Arctic tundra with just muskox around you. There's people around. It's kind of like you're just sort of hopping from one backyard to the next, one neighborhood to the next, one neighborhood to the next. In southern Canada, there's a couple stretches where there's 100 kilometers where there's just nothing, no food, no campgrounds. Yeah. But there's only a couple spots like that. Everywhere else, there's just places and people. But you do have to plan. Anyway, back to the contrast. I had my phone, and that made a big difference. I didn't feel as lonely on the trip because I was chatting with people on Facebook at the end of the day, answering comments, and all these people saying, "Go, Matthew." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. Making YouTube videos. I had a friend say, "Matthew, call me every night just to make sure you're okay." So I had that. One friend said she didn't go to bed until she saw my videos that I was safe in the campground. Oh, wow. And she was on the East Coast. So I'm guessing, I don't know how late she stayed up in the middle of the night, but that's what she told me. So, yeah. And just, I guess there's a thing called, I saw a list of 20 or more different kinds of intelligence. And one was geographical intelligence.
Okay.
And sailors and pilots can get it. I've flown across Canada 7 times, biked it twice, but Canada doesn't seem as big to me anymore. When I set off the first time, I just felt like I was going across this. I couldn't even conceive how far Newfoundland was away. It's like where Mars was, or the end of the solar system. I just can't. Right. I can't grasp that.
Right.
But I've been able to grasp how big Canada is more, just sort of mentally after flying across it a number of times. I can sort of put it into chunks and just sort of it. So when I was biking across Canada in the prairies the first time, I felt like I was biking on an ocean. I just felt
Okay.
like I was in this vast, vast ocean, and it's big for sure. This time I could sort of sense so many hundreds of kilometers down the road where the end of Alberta was, where the end of Saskatchewan was, where the end of Manitoba was. I could sort of sense that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's kind of different. Yeah, but it's
But
it's 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 just fun. Biking, long distance biking is just fun. It's
which
just a
which
great.
which 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 trip did you do quicker, the first or the second one?
I sort of followed the same route as I took the first time,
Yep.
but on the second one I went the whole way across Newfoundland. So the
Okay.
first trip is about 2 months, and the second trip was 3 months.
Got you. Got
Yeah,
you. Oh wow.
yeah,
I could just imagine even just the perspectives. I mean, traveling is a wonderful thing because it gives you new experiences, new perspectives, and new viewpoints. And I could just imagine as you move across the country that they were just getting heightened as you went.
yeah. The people, there's so many friendly people in Canada. The rural places in the prairies, on like everywhere. It's and there's yeah, it's just I loved it. I love meeting people. I love going places, and then the landscape. I'm a real landscape freak. It's Rick Mercer, when he traveled across Canada for his TV show for 15 years. He said everyone should get the chance, if they can, to travel across Canada. It's beautiful. People say driving across the prairies is boring. I loved it.
Mm,
So beautiful. So beautiful.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
You've described sort of small actions like building your confidence, like bricks on a wall, kind of a thing. I don't know if
Yeah.
you could share maybe an example of maybe a small action that you took to that really had a big impact on you and built your own wall, if you will.
Yeah. So the one that is most prominent in my mind recently is I made a website in 2018,
Okay.
mindaid.ca, mindaid.ca.
Hmm.
And I was scared to call a website designer. I'm like, oh my gosh, but I did it. And it was
Okay.
one small step, one phone call. I simply picked up the phone, phoned a web designer, and said, sure, I can make a website for you. And we talked about it for a number of months, how to design it and everything. And just one step leads to another. There's a book called The Motivation Myth by Jeff Hayden.
Okay.
And he says people think they need this lightning bolt of inspiration, an aha moment. They say, that's what I'm going to do with my life.
Yep.
But he says for most people, that doesn't happen. And people think they need the confidence before they take action. And he says it's the opposite. Take the action, take a small step. And you won't get all your confidence all at once just like that. You're not going to make one phone call and all of a sudden be, yes, I'm ready to run the U.S. Army now. Call me
Right.
general.
Right. 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 Right.
It's just all these small steps. It's like building a brick wall, building a brick house, one brick at a time, one phone call, one email, 1 hour doing work on something, and your confidence improves. With every little phone call you make, your confidence improves. Your confidence can go backwards sometimes, for sure. Things don't go right, but you keep doing these things. Like I'm doing things now in 2025 that there is no way I could have done in 2018 when I first made this website. No way. I'm on social media making YouTube videos. I wasn't ready really to do that back then. It was just it's so all these little things just add up and your confidence slowly improves. And that's
Love
what I
it.
wish people would know, to just, if you want to do something, take the first step. And often it just starts with a phone call or something, or a message.
Yep.
Hey, can you help me out? Hey, this is what I'm thinking about. Hey, this is what I'd like to
That's right. And, and,
so
and go on. Go on. Go on. Finish your point there.
so I just want to mention that website I made. So
Yep.
when I was at my worst with this disease in 1994, I felt like I was living in a war zone. And I was so terrified. And my
Okay.
heart went out to people in actual war zones or extreme poverty, who have mental illness to go through as well. I'm like, how do you do that? I was living in a small town, sleepy part of Canada, and I was just terrified. So I don't know why, but I never went looking for any information on mental health in developing countries until this TED Talk burbled up into my feed in 2017 by Vikram Patel. The link's on my MindAid website. And it talked about how they designed in the 90s models of basic mental health care for people in developing countries where there's no hospital or doctor for hundreds of miles.
Right.
Some countries have only one psychiatrist per million people, and there are over 270 million people in developing countries with no mental health care. But there are groups helping, and that's what I did. I took my web. I said, you know what? I found these groups. They're scattered across the web. It's a vastly under-resourced cause, but they use these basic models of mental health, and they've been getting thousands and thousands of people back up on their feet again, which is crucial.
Beautiful.
If you can, if you can't get out of bed to feed your family, what are you going to do?
That's right. No.
So I'm not an expert in mental health in developing countries. I'm sort of more a promoter of the other people doing the work. On my website right now, I've tried to keep it simple for myself because of my disease. I'm told I'm supposed to watch my stress levels for the rest of my life, so I'm always conscious of how much I take on. But on my website, I've got a list of nonprofits that you can donate to today.
Beautiful.
You can click a button, send money, $1, $10, whatever, $1,000, 10,000, $1 million if you got it, and help people, with bipolar, with OCD, with anxiety, addiction problems in developing countries. There's groups there, and that's. I just wanted to talk about that for a second, if I could.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for our listeners, the focus of MindAid is what?
It's mental health in developing countries. My MindAid website, I throw some other stuff on there about me. I do talks, I'm a speaker. So my three main topics, for those watching, I'm holding up 4 fingers, it's 3. So Matthew, get your fingers.
There we
go. My 3 main topics are mental health tips, because I read hundreds of books on how to get myself better for many years.
Sure.
And schizophrenia, I'm doing well. I try to help people with schizophrenia, and mental health in developing countries. Those are my 3 main things. I have added on recently a new one, Indigenous people in Canada. I've got a website, donateindigenous.ca. It's similar to MindAid in that it's sort of a hub for all the charities helping Indigenous people in Canada. There are hundreds of charities. People say, we see an article in the news about something not good in reserve, and the government should do something. Then we move on to the next article. Well, you can donate. You don't have to wait for government. You can donate, again, with a click of a button. Donate $10, $1,000, whatever, to these charities, helping get water on reserves, helping with mental health and addiction, housing, maternal health, all sorts of things. So those are sort of my main things.
Gotcha.
One other thing I threw out that I came up with was a mental health town hall.
Okay.
I put one on in my hometown. Well, not me, but a group of us. It was my idea, but a group of us put it on, and it was, as far as we know, the first of its kind. Town halls have been around for centuries. They're simple. They work. Get everyone in the same room and hash ideas out. Because I was thinking, in our small town, we have to rely on the next city over, the next town over, the province for our mental health resources, a lot of them. But there must be something we could do for ourselves in our town. So it's sort of like a grassroots approach. And we've I put some as simple as 988 posters, the new mental health hotline. We put posters up around town for that. We've got courses on for mental health to educate people. There's other things we've got in the works, and so I've got a website for that, just a very simple website to show people. It's in the about section on my MindAid site. You can see all my links there, my Linktree links. But
what we'll do is we'll make sure that those links are connected. So in the show notes, we'll make sure all the links are available so people can check them all out, which is awesome. One thing, Matthew, I'm really curious about, as you sort of talk, as you're delving more and more into the mental health conversation, is are there misconceptions out there that you think need to be cleared up about mental health that people don't fully understand or know?
One big one that I wish I still didn't have to talk about, I really wish I still didn't have to talk about this, is violence and schizophrenia.
Okay.
That is one that I'm trying to, millions of us are trying to destigmatize. When I was diagnosed, I didn't know what the stats are for violence. So I was terrified that I never had any thoughts of hurting anybody, never wanted to do it. I'm not a violent person ever before or during with schizophrenia. I didn't play hockey as a kid. I didn't like hitting and punching. I hate wrestling, despise that. It's just not me. And then I get this disease, and I'm like, am I going to be violent? I don't know. What's schizophrenia? I didn't even know what it was really.
Right, right.
And it's yeah. So, but the stats are people with schizophrenia are no more prone to violence than the rest of the general population. It's hard to define violence. There's like kicking, biting, scratching, bar fights, and
Right.
psychological violence. But a rough one stat I saw was 2% of the general population is violent. And people with schizophrenia are the same. We're some of us are violent, but it's just in the normal realm. The BC Schizophrenia Society says that people with untreated schizophrenia can be a bit more violent than the rest of the general population. And I'm trying to
Okay.
figure out what that stat is. I don't know if it's like 5%, 10%, I don't know. But yeah, there are so many of us. When the pandemic happened, a group called Students with Psychosis, they deal with schizophrenia too. They started posting group Zooms of all their schizophrenia advocates.
Okay.
And for the first time in my life, I saw people just like me with my disease.
Mhm.
I hadn't met many people with
Right.
schizophrenia. We all tend to hide, and we're not in the media. We're not in movies for the most part. We know what people with dementia look like. They've been in the movies for
Sure.
years.
Sure.
Media, an older person who's forgetful. Well, I didn't even know what we look like. So seeing all these
Yes.
students
Yep. Yep.
with schizophrenia, I'm like, oh my gosh, we all it's incredible.
Hiding in plain sight, right?
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
I'd love to have like a video of just showing people schizophrenia in their faces. And we're all so different. All these students had so many different talents and personality gifts and interests. I'm studying paleontology, I'm studying astrobiology, whatever.
Right.
It's we're not all the same person. So vastly different. We all look different.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Listen, I've just really, love certainly your experiences and the journeys that you've taken, literally and figuratively. It's absolutely wonderful, and something I ask guests. I certainly would love to get your take. Is if you were to think about sort of audacious living, what does that mean to you?
Taking the first step.
Yeah.
Simply taking the first step. It's it's not as scary as you think. If you're going bungee jumping, yeah, you can be scared, but you don't have to do bungee jumping level fear to do something you
Right.
want to do. Like it's not just always one big huge leap of faith. Yes, in life you have to take a huge leap of faith sometimes, but a lot of the time, so I call it just going like sort of 1 to 5 at the most percent outside your comfort zone. 1, 2, 3%. It's you don't have to go 100% bungee jumping fear outside your comfort zone. Just 1%, 2%.
Yep.
Make a phone call. You're just very slightly nervous. You're just there might be the tiniest little waver in your voice, just something people barely would even notice. And that can take you so far. So it's just going a little bit out of your comfort zone,
Yep.
not necessarily every day, but just keep doing it. Take some days off. I'm just gonna relax. Not push myself today. Just take some time. But then just do another thing, and it builds your confidence. Like, hey, I'm doing something with my life. I've been given this life. It's a gift. I know it feels like hell for a lot of us. I've been through that, but our lives are a gift. And even when you're sick, for me with schizophrenia, even when you're sick, I flew out to Vancouver a number of times. I love the mountains out on the West Coast. I wanted to be out there. And I went out there a few times. Yes, I was
Yep.
out there with schizophrenia, not fully recovered, not feeling my best. Thinking, I
Yep.
wish I could be out here feeling good. But, I went. And even though I wasn't feeling good, I went, and somehow that registers in you. You can say to people, I went out to Vancouver, instead of saying, I didn't do anything today. And yes, there's cases for a lot of people to not
Of
do
course.
anything today. I've
Of
been
course.
there. But, once in a while, just do something. Um, they talk about, like, for kids trying to find their way in the world, entering the workforce and university and everything. What's your identity capital? Who are you?
Hmm.
And they, in the book I was reading on it said, this lady was did work with in the like crocodile area of Florida, the Everglades in Florida.
Yep.
And she took disadvantaged kids out into the Everglades on canoe, trips, boating trips, whatever, camping. And when she was applying for psychology jobs, that was her field, she was noticed. Oh, you're the Everglades lady. They helped her get jobs. They said, what's her identity capital? What interest do you have? You don't have to be passionate about something. There's actually an article called "Passion is Overrated." Do something that interests you.
Yep.
You don't have to be like the one and only, I'm the best at this, I know everything about this. Do something that interests you.
That's right.
It's
That's right.
Even though you're not feeling good, just try to if you can. Yeah.
I love it. I love the advice. I love the insights. And I think they're bang on and really inspirational from being able to move people from point A to point B. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your story today, Matthew. I think it's been awesome. I really, like I said, I love the insights. For listeners that wanted to connect with you or learn more about your work, where can we send them?
Everything's at mindaid.ca, mindaid.ca. It's Google Matthew Dickson, MindAid, mental illness.
Okay.
And I'm on lots of social media. My email, info@mindaid.ca. The other thing that I'm offering people is virtual fundraisers, or in person. I prefer virtual though, if I can, for your organization. That's what Gary Sinise did when he, after his Forrest Gump fame, he still today is advocating for war vet organizations. And I would like to do the same for mental health organizations or anybody. If I can offer, I've got a little bit of fame, having biked across Canada with schizophrenia. If I can, help anybody out, I'm open to, I can it can be as simple as a Zoom, sell tickets on Eventbrite, and I can raise some funds for you. Please reach out to me. I would love to help out. That's what I'm here for.
Amazing. I love the dedication. And again, we'll make sure that the contact details are in the show notes below. Matthew, this has been awesome. Thank you for taking the time. Thanks for being here. And congratulations on your journey. And again, thanks for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Back, we are here on the podcast. Welcome back. I got to tell you, that conversation, really stayed with me. And if I were to think about the key takeaway, the biggest one for me was the idea that real change doesn't usually arrive as a breakthrough moment. It arrives through small actions taken consistently, even when you're scared or you're uncertain or you're even exhausted. Whether it was watching a TV show just to make it through an hour, making one phone call to build a website, or riding a bike 1 mile at a time, Matthew showed us that momentum is built quietly, brick by brick, pedal stroke by pedal stroke. What I personally loved about the conversation was Matthew's honesty. There was no sugarcoating, no motivational high rah type stuff. It was just the truth. He spoke openly about terror, about time dragging, about fear without a roadmap. And yet woven through all of that was the steadily belief that something could still change, even when he didn't know how or when. That's audacity in its purest form. Not bravado, not bold declarations, but the courage to stay in motion when stopping would be so much easier. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to share something meaningful. As we, stop recording, Matthew told me something that was, he told me that, I was his favorite interview he's ever done. And I don't share that to elevate myself. I share it because it tells me this space did what it was meant to do. This podcast isn't about rapid fire questions or polished sound bites. It's about creating a space where real stories can breathe, where people feel safe enough to be honest, where conversations can actually move us forward. That's what audacious living is all about. So I want to thank you, Matthew, for the kind words as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your journey. If today's episode resonated with you, and I encourage you to connect with Matthew directly, all of his links are in the show notes, including his advocacy work to mindaid.ca and the ways to support mental health initiatives. They're also available, again, in those show notes, so definitely check them out. And if this conversation added any value today, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, and share, or leave a review. It's one of the simplest ways you can help us grow this podcast and reach even more people who need such conversations of enlightenment. You can leave a review right at ratethispodcast.com/audacious. Until next time, keep taking that small step, keep showing up for yourself, and keep living life audaciously.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action. motivation.